The doctor stared at the X-ray in disbelief. "This cannot be right," he said. "These are the knees of a 60-year-old man." Bruce Lee was 27 years old. The year was 1967. Bruce had been experiencing pain in both knees for months. Sharp, grinding pain that woke him at night. Pain that made walking difficult and kicking nearly impossible. He had finally agreed to see a specialist. The diagnosis was devastating. "Mr. Lee," the doctor said carefully, "you have severe cartilage degeneration in both knees. The cushioning between your joints is almost gone. If you continue training at your current intensity, you will need knee replacement surgery within 5 years. And at your age, with the technology we have, that surgery would likely end your martial arts career permanently." Bruce sat in silence. What caused this? The doctor pointed at the X-ray. Repetitive impact. Thousands and thousands of kicks. Your training has destroyed your knee joints faster than your body can repair them. He paused. "I am recommending you stop kicking immediately. No more martial arts training involving the legs. If you want to preserve any mobility for your future, you need to stop now." Bruce Lee walked out of that office and did not follow a single piece of the doctor's advice. Instead, he spent the next 6 years developing a training system that would not only save his knees, but make his legs stronger than ever. A system that modern sports medicine would not fully understand for another 40 years. A system that allowed him to throw the most devastating kicks in martial arts history, while protecting the very joints that should have failed. This is the story of how Bruce Lee rebuilt his legs from the inside out. And the training method that could save your knees too. Los Angeles, California. March 1967. Bruce Lee sat alone in his garage, staring at his legs. The doctor's words echoed in his mind. Cartilage degeneration. Knee replacement. End of career. He was 27 years old. He had been kicking since he was 13. 14 years of training. Hundreds of thousands of kicks. Each one wearing down the cushioning in his knees. Each one bringing him closer to disability. And he had done it to himself. The traditional martial arts training he had followed for years was destroying his body. Deep stances that compressed the knee joint. Thousands of repetitive kicks without adequate recovery. Impact training that sent shockwaves through his legs with every strike. He had been training hard, but he had been training wrong. Bruce understood something in that moment that would change his approach forever. Hard work is not enough. Hard work in the wrong direction destroys you. The goal is not to train more. The goal is to train smarter. He picked up a notebook. On the first page, he wrote a question. How do I make my legs powerful without destroying my knees? The answer would take 6 years to fully develop, but it began that night. Bruce Lee's first insight came from an unexpected source. He had been studying anatomy textbooks, trying to understand why his knees were failing. The diagrams showed the knee joint in detail. Bones, cartilage, ligaments, tendons, muscles. And then he saw it. The knee was not designed to be strong. The knee was designed to be stable. This was a crucial distinction. The hip joint was designed for power. Large muscles, deep socket, maximum force production. The ankle joint was designed for mobility. Multiple bones, complex movement adaptability. But the knee was designed for neither. It was a hinge. Its purpose was to connect the powerful hip to the mobile ankle. To transfer force, not generate it. To remain stable while everything above and below it moved. Bruce had been training his knees like they were power generators. Thousands of kicks loading the joint with force it was never designed to handle. No wonder they were failing. He needed a different approach. The muscles around the knee, he realized, were the key. Not the joint itself. The quadriceps above. The hamstrings behind. The calves below. These muscles were designed to absorb force, generate power, and protect the knee from impact. If he could strengthen these muscles to a sufficient degree, they would take the load off the knee joint. The cartilage would have time to recover. The degeneration would slow or stop. But traditional strength training would not work. Heavy squats compressed the knee joint. Leg presses created shear force. Lunges twisted the knee under load. All the standard leg exercises that martial artists used were actually accelerating knee damage. Bruce needed something different. He needed exercises that strengthened the muscles without loading the joint. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most important part of this story is still unfolding. Bruce Lee's knee protection system had 3 core principles. Principle 1. Isometric strength before dynamic strength. Isometric exercises involve muscle tension without joint movement, holding a position, resisting force, building strength in the muscle fibers without compressing or twisting the joint. Bruce developed a series of isometric leg exercises that would become the foundation of his training. The wall sit was the most basic. Back against the wall, thighs parallel to the ground, holding for time. No knee movement, no joint compression, pure quadriceps activation. But Bruce took it further. He would hold the wall sit position for 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, then 15 minutes, building the muscular endurance that would protect his knees during training. He developed isometric holds at multiple angles: 90 degrees, 120 degrees, 150 degrees, each angle targeting different muscle fibers. Each hold building stability that no dynamic exercise could match. The results were remarkable. Within 3 months, his quadriceps had grown visibly larger. But more importantly, the pain in his knees had decreased. The muscles were taking the load. The joints were getting rest. Principle 2. Strengthen the stabilizers, not just the prime movers. Most leg training focuses on the big muscles. Quadriceps for extension, hamstrings for flexion, glutes for hip power. But Bruce discovered that knee health depended on smaller muscles that most people ignored. The vastus medialis obliquus, the teardrop-shaped muscle on the inside of the knee, was critical for tracking the kneecap properly. If this muscle was weak, the kneecap would drift outward during movement, grinding against cartilage. The popliteus, a small muscle behind the knee, was essential for unlocking the joint from full extension. If this muscle was weak, the knee would hyperextend under load, stretching ligaments and damaging cartilage. The tibialis anterior, the muscle on the front of the shin, controlled ankle stability. If this muscle was weak, the foot would collapse inward during movement, rotating the knee and creating torsion damage. Bruce developed specific exercises for each of these muscles. For the vastus medialis, he performed terminal knee extensions. Lying on his back, a roll under his knee, straightening the last few degrees of extension against resistance. A small movement that isolated the critical stabilizer. For the popliteus, he performed knee rotations. Seated, knee bent, rotating the lower leg inward against resistance, training the muscle that most people did not even know existed. For the tibialis anterior, he performed toe raises, standing on the edge of a step, lifting his toes toward his shins against gravity, building the ankle stability that protected the knee from torsion. These exercises looked strange. Other martial artists laughed at them. Why was Bruce Lee doing tiny movements with light resistance when he should be squatting heavy weights? Bruce did not care. He understood something they did not. The smallest muscles often have the biggest impact. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link, and the stabilizers were the weak links in every martial artist's legs. Principle 3. Eccentric strength over concentric strength. This was Bruce Lee's most innovative insight. Concentric muscle action is when the muscle shortens under load. Lifting a weight, standing up from a squat, the pushing phase of a kick. Eccentric muscle action is when the muscle lengthens under load. Lowering a weight, descending into a squat, the landing phase of a kick. Most training focused on concentric strength. Lifting, pushing, extending. But Bruce realized that knee damage happened primarily during eccentric actions. Landing from a jump, absorbing impact from a kick, decelerating from rapid movement. If his muscles were weak eccentrically, they could not absorb these forces. The impact would transfer directly to the joint. The cartilage would compress. The damage would accumulate. He needed to train his legs to absorb force, not just produce it. Bruce developed eccentric-focused exercises that were ahead of their time. Slow negatives became a cornerstone of his training. Instead of lowering from a squat in 1 second, He would take 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, building the eccentric strength that would protect his knees from impact. He practiced landing from jumps with exaggerated control, stepping off a platform and decelerating so slowly that his descent was almost silent, training his muscles to absorb force that would otherwise destroy his joints. He developed what he called falling kicks, throwing a kick, then allowing gravity to bring his leg down while his muscles resisted, building the eccentric hamstring strength that would protect his knee from hyperextension. The training was grueling. Eccentric work created more muscle damage than concentric work. Recovery took longer. Soreness lasted for days, but the results were undeniable. Within 6 months, Bruce's knee pain had almost completely disappeared. Within a year, his legs were stronger than they had ever been. Within 2 years, he was throwing kicks with more power and speed than before his injury. And his knees were getting better, not worse. Share and subscribe. Some stories deserve to be remembered. The practical application of Bruce Lee's knee protection system was visible in every kick he threw. Watch slow-motion footage of Bruce Lee kicking. Pay attention to what his supporting leg does. Most martial artists lock their supporting knee when they kick. They straighten the leg, creating a rigid pillar, then rotate around it. This creates tremendous stress on the knee joint. Torsion, compression, sheer force all at once. Bruce never locked his supporting knee. His supporting leg maintained a slight bend throughout the kick, maybe 10 degrees of flexion, maybe 15, enough that his quadriceps remained engaged, enough that his muscles absorbed the rotational force instead of his joint. This small detail, invisible to most observers, was the result of thousands of hours of deliberate training. Bruce had retrained his movement patterns so thoroughly that his knees were protected automatically. He called it the live knee principle. A locked knee is a dead knee, he explained to his students. It cannot absorb force. It cannot adapt to unexpected movement. It is rigid where it should be flexible. A bent knee is a live knee. The muscles are engaged. The joint is protected. The leg is ready for anything. Dan Inosanto, Bruce's closest student, described learning this principle. Bruce would watch me kick and stop me constantly, Inosanto recalled. Your knee is locked. Your knee is locked. I did not even realize I was doing it. It was habit. Everyone did it. But Bruce could see the tiny moment when my supporting leg went rigid. He would make me practice kicks in slow motion until I could maintain the bend naturally. It took months. But once I learned it, my knee pain disappeared. I had been hurting myself for years without knowing. The live knee principle extended beyond kicking. Bruce applied it to every movement: walking, running, jumping, squatting. Anytime his feet touched the ground, his knees maintained a slight bend. This constant microflexion kept his leg muscles engaged at all times. His quadriceps were always working. His hamstrings were always ready. His knees were always protected. It also made him faster. A locked knee requires time to unlock before movement can begin. The muscles must disengage from the locked position, then re-engage for movement. This takes milliseconds, but in combat, milliseconds matter. Bruce's constantly bent knees meant he could move instantly. No delay, no preparación. His muscles were already engaged. His legs were already ready. The same principle that protected his knees also made him more explosive. Bruce Lee's leg training included one more element that confused his contemporaries: mobility work. In the 1960s and 1970s, most martial artists believed that flexibility was something you were born with. You either had it or you did not. Stretching was for warming up, not for building capacity. Bruce disagreed. He spent hours each week on leg mobility. Not just stretching, but active mobility, moving his joints through their full range of motion under muscular control. He developed hip rotation exercises that increased the range of his kicks without stressing his knees. He practiced ankle mobility drills that improved his footwork without creating instability. He worked on hamstring flexibility through dynamic movements rather than static holds. The key insight was that mobility protected the knees by distributing force across more joints. When Bruce threw a high kick, the motion came primarily from his hip. His hip rotated, his hip flexed, his hip abducted. The knee simply transferred the force from the hip to the foot. Most martial artists lacked this hip mobility. Their hips were stiff, limited, restricted. So when they threw high kicks, the motion had to come from somewhere. And that somewhere was often the knee. They would twist their knee to gain height. They would rotate through the knee joint to achieve angles their hips could not reach. They would stress their knees to compensate for their hips. Bruce's exceptional hip mobility eliminated this compensation. His hips could achieve any angle. His hips could rotate in any direction. His hips did the work that hips were designed to do. And his knees just transferred the force. This is why Bruce could throw kicks that seemed impossible. Side kicks to head height. Spinning kicks with full extension. Hook kicks that wrapped around guards. It was not just leg strength. It was hip mobility combined with knee protection combined with precise technique. Each element supported the others. Remove any one, and the system would fail. The medical evidence of Bruce Lee's knee recovery is limited but compelling. Bruce never returned to the doctor who told him to stop training. He did not trust Western medicine after that experience. But those who trained with him observed remarkable changes. James Coburn, the actor who studied with Bruce, noted the transformation. When I first met Bruce in 1967, he was limping, Coburn recalled. He tried to hide it, but I could see he was in pain. His movement was guarded. His kicks were hesitant. By 1970, it was like watching a different person. He moved like water. His kicks were devastating. There was no sign of the injury at all. Coburn asked Bruce what had changed. I rebuilt my legs from the inside out, Bruce explained. I trained the muscles to do what the joints could not. I made my body work the way it was designed to work, not the way tradition told me to work. After Bruce Lee's death in 1973, his training notes were preserved by Linda Lee Cadwell. Among them were detailed descriptions of his knee rehabilitation protocol, the isometric exercises, the stabilizer work, the eccentric training, the mobility drills, the live knee principle. These notes would eventually influence modern sports medicine. In the 1990s, physical therapists began developing protocols for knee rehabilitation that emphasized many of the same principles Bruce had discovered decades earlier. Closed kinetic chain exercises that strengthen muscles without loading joints. Terminal knee extensions that isolated the vastus medialis. Eccentric training that built force absorption capacity. Mobility work that distributed stress across multiple joints. The field did not credit Bruce Lee. Most researchers did not know he had pioneered these methods. But the principles he developed through trial and error in his garage eventually became standard practice in clinics around the world. The final element of Bruce Lee's knee protection system was perhaps the most important. Rest. Not rest in the sense of doing nothing. Rest in the sense of allowing recovery between training sessions. Traditional martial arts training emphasized volume. More kicks, more repetitions, more hours. The belief was that more training always led to better results. Bruce rejected this completely. More is not better, he said. Better is better. One perfect kick is worth 1,000 sloppy kicks. And one recovery day is worth more than 2 training days done while exhausted. He developed a training schedule that cycled intensity. Heavy leg days were followed by light days or rest days. Kicking practice was followed by upper body work. High-impact training was followed by low-impact recovery. This cycling allowed his knees to recover between sessions. The microscopic damage from training had time to heal. The cartilage had time to regenerate. The muscles had time to rebuild stronger. Most martial artists trained their legs hard every day. They wondered why their knees hurt. They did not understand that recovery was not laziness. Recovery was where strength was actually built. Bruce understood. And his knees, which should have failed by age 30, carried him through the most demanding physical performances in martial arts history. The legacy of Bruce Lee's knee protection system extends beyond martial arts. Today, athletes in every sport deal with knee injuries. Basketball players, Soccer players, runners, dancers. Anyone who loads their legs repetitively faces the same challenges Bruce faced in 1967. The solutions are the same. Strengthen the muscles to protect the joints. Train the stabilizers, not just the prime movers. Build eccentric strength for force absorption. Maintain mobility to distribute stress. Keep the knee live, never locked. Allow recovery between intense sessions. These principles, developed by a 27-year-old martial artist in his garage, are now taught in medical schools and athletic training programs worldwide. Bruce Lee was not a doctor. He was not a scientist. He was an athlete facing a career-ending injury who refused to accept the conventional wisdom. He experimented. He observed. He adjusted. He documented. And he discovered principles that would take formal medicine another 40 years to validate. The doctor who told Bruce Lee to stop training never knew what happened afterward. He never knew that his patient ignored every piece of advice and developed his own rehabilitation protocol. He never knew that the knees he predicted would fail continued to perform at the highest level for another 6 years. He never knew that his failed patient would become the most influential martial artist in history, throwing kicks that should have been impossible with joints that should have been destroyed. Bruce Lee walked into that office with damaged knees and a death sentence for his career. He walked out with a question: how do I make my legs powerful without destroying my knees? The answer took 6 years to develop, and it changed everything. Not just for Bruce Lee. For everyone who has ever wanted to be strong without being broken. For everyone who has ever refused to accept that age means decline. For everyone who has ever believed that the body can heal itself if given the right conditions. Bruce Lee rebuilt his legs from the inside out. And now you know how.